What's up guys, this is Zach with Top Deck Nation coming at you today with another deck profile video from the Sun and Moon base set. So if you haven't watched our last one, please check it out. We covered Regice GX, which I'm pretty excited for. It's very similar to Greninja in the sense that you're placing damage counters everywhere, so really fun deck to play with. And I actually paired it up with Tauros GX, so if you're looking forward to Tauros, definitely check out that deck profile. But today, we're going to be looking at another deck, and this is a deck that's kind of a spin off a current deck that's pretty popular. Hasn't really seen a whole lot of play this season, but last season it was kind of a sleeper pick at Nationals. It did really well, and that's going to be Water Box or Aqua Box, however you are used to calling it, I guess. But basically the strategy of Water Box is basically you're using Max Elixir, putting a ton of water energy on the board, and basically healing your damage off every turn using Rough Seas. So yeah, pretty simple strategy, but this time, like I said, we've added a twist. We've added the Pokemon GXs, and it's a really exciting build. I like it. It's really fun to play. Tons of options, very versatile in general. So I'm just going to go ahead and walk through the deck here. So first of all, our main attacker, if you want to have a main attacker, is probably going to be Lapras GX. I love Lapras for a few reasons. First of all, his first attack, it's just a single water energy, but you can draw 3 cards, and that's a really strong attack. I mean, even late game, if your opponent ends you to 1 or 2, you have a dead hand, you retreat into Lapras, you draw 3 cards, and you're probably going to draw a Verse Seeker or something else that you need. So it's just a form of, draw power. The second attack's really good for 3 energy. It does 160. So that's better than even something like Seismitoad-EX, which used to be the main attacker before it rotated. So it does 160 and then it can't attack next turn. But as you can see, we are playing a Pokemon Ranger to get around that. And not to mention, you can just kind of retreat out anyway into a different Lapras or, whatever attacker you want to play with. So Lapras is really good. And then finally that GX attack, it does 100 damage and automatically paralyzes. So if you notice your opponent is out of Verse Seekers to grab back the Olympia, if you notice there's a couple of switch or escape ropes in their discard, you could definitely kind of take advantage of that and paralyze them so you can get set up a little more or just take a cheap knockout. So Lapras is really good. Manaphy-EX is going to give us free retreat with that Aqua Tube ability. I think that's what it's called, but anything with a water energy has free retreat. So that's really good in this deck. If you're not playing against Garbodor, I mean, it makes a lot of your matchups just kind of ridiculously good because it's going to force your opponent to have a Lysander every turn or just kind of hit something that is pretty much, clean, doesn't have any damage on it. So really good. Of course, we're playing 2 Shaman to get set up. That setup ability is pretty self-explanatory. So, definitely want to play 2 in most decks. Something interesting that we're playing here is Tauros GX. So we did play it in the Regice GX deck that we posted a few days ago. And if you haven't checked it out, I think there's going to be a card posted in the video on the side so you can click it. But definitely check it out. It's really fun. But I love Tauros in here because all of his attacks are just for 2 colorless energies. So basically an attachment and an energy switch, or an attachment and a Max Elixir, and he's good to go. First attack, I want to say it does 20 and then 10 more for each damage counter on it. So that's really good if something hits you. The second attack, it's just a clean 60 damage. So that's pretty good getting set up. And then finally, the GX attack, which I think is way better than Lapras's. It does 30 times the number of damage counters on it. So if you have 7 damage counters or 70 damage on Tauros, you're going to be doing 210 damage, and that's before like a Fighting Fury Belt or anything. So that's enough to knock out something like a Mega Mewtwo, Mega Gardevoir, Yveltal with the Fury Belt. So basically anything that these guys can't cover, like Lapras, Shaman, or not Shaman, but Glaceon, Regice, etc., Tauros pretty much has you covered. And, I'm going to show you a way to kind of jump into Tauros out of nowhere. We have Glaceon just to cover our evolutions, and it's got a really good first attack too. It's 20 and then 10 more for each damage counter on your opponent. So we're really taking advantage of damage on the board, and then it can't be touched by evolutions with the second attack. So that's really good against things like Megas, Greninja, etc. We're playing Articuno and Regice. There are non-EX attackers in here. Always important to have those, just in case you run into something that is kind of immune to those, which I guess we play GXs now, so that kind of gets around that. But Articuno is really cool because it can take extra prizes. Regice, of course, can't be touched by Pokemon EX, so really good. And then finally Hoopa, which I'm kind of on the fence about Hoopa just because, we're playing a few GXs and Hoopa can't search them out. So, if you want to free up a spot, you could definitely take out Hoopa. Maybe you want to add another water energy or supporter or something. But, what I like about Hoopa is that the first turn I can Ultra Ball for Manaphy, Shaman, and Glaceon. All three of those I'm probably going to use throughout the game, so it's really good just to kind of get them out, get my free retreat going, get my draw power with Shaman, so really good overall. So that covers the Pokemon line. As far as the supporters go, it looks pretty standard with a couple of extra tech cards for Professor Sycamore, of course. I like that we had the space to put 3 in. Most competitive decks, they play like 2 in, but I love playing 3 because I think it adds so much consistency. 2 Lysander, of course, just to kind of bring things out. Pokemon Ranger is there for Lapras mainly because the attack is just so strong, but if you can't use it next turn, it's really bad. So similarly to like Volcanion, we're going to make sure that we use Lapras's attack as much as we can. And it's also good against things like Jolteon as well. So normally, since we're playing all basics, we're going to be struggling against that, but that shouldn't be an issue now. Olympia is there just because, we do have free retreat on everything, but if Garbodor comes down, we don't. So, there's a lot of situations like that where you want to basically have an extra switch card, and you also heal 30 damage, which kind of goes with the theme of the deck. Hexmaniac in general is really good, good against Volcanion, Greninja, anything that's really, really reliant on abilities, Decidueye. And then lastly, we're playing a Ninja Boy, which is, kind of a new inclusion for the deck. It's really interesting because you're playing this entire, smorgasbord of attackers. Back in maybe a year or two ago, I remember Aromatisse was legal. It had the fairy transfer ability. So, I did pretty well with that at some tournaments and stuff. It was really fun just playing all these different attackers, just having a really versatile deck, a lot of attackers and such. So Ninja Boy is cool because you can Ninja Boy out of Lapras into like Articuno to go ahead and finish the game. You can Ninja Boy from anything into Tauros, and then Tauros can suddenly do a lot of damage, so it's really cool. We're going to be playing 4 Max Elixir because it's really good to just kind of load up your board with water energy as soon as possible. There might be some really explosive turns where you get 2 or 3 Max Elixirs on the board, so you end up having 3, 4, or 5 energy on the board the first turn, and that is just incredibly good, especially with Energy Switch, and that's going to let you move around energy and things like that. 4 Ultra Ball is pretty standard. Dive Ball can definitely search out a lot of the Pokemon, but Ultra Ball in general is good because not only can you search out anything, but you can also get rid of supporters or extra cards you just don't need. So really good card, I think, just to kind of help your consistency and thin out your deck. 4 Verse Seeker just to kind of reuse our supporters in case we have to discard them. Energy Switch is kind of, the bread and butter of the deck. It really is what makes it work because you don't have to limit your attachments on certain Pokemon. If I'm stuck putting like 2 or 3 energy on Shaman, yeah, I can Ninja Boy, but more than likely I want an Energy Switch to move it around. So 3 Fighting Fury Belt because not only is the extra HP good, but so is the extra damage. The extra 40 HP on Lapras makes a huge difference. It puts it at 230 HP, and that is really good. Also puts things like Regice and Articuno at 160, so harder to knock those guys out as well. Now, I will say the count of the Fighting Fury Belt, I love that there's 3 in here, but, keep in mind there is going to be a new card coming out, and it's called Choice Band, I think. And I don't think it's in the actual Sun and Moon 1 set, the base set, but I think it was a promo or something. So we might get it in the English set, and if we don't, it'll be out a little bit later. But Choice Band is really good just because it adds 30 damage against EXs and GXs. So, it's really just kind of like a magic number situation. It could be the extra 30 damage that Tauros needs to get a knockout with his attacks. It could be doing 190 damage with Lapras's attack. It could also be really good with Articuno because you might be shy at 30 damage. Let's say you Ninja Boyed into something and then you attacked with Articuno and you could possibly get 3 prizes. It just kind of depends on that extra damage. So I think in general, it's really good looking forward. It's a much better muscle band, maybe not as good as Fighting Fury Belt, but I could definitely see a 2-1 split between Fighting Fury Belt and Choice Band, or even looking ahead, depending on how GXs get popular, maybe even a 2-1 split of the Choice Band and Fighting Fury Belt. We're going to play 3 Trainers Mill just because we play a lot of trainers. We play Max Elixir, Energy Switch, Rough Seas, supporters. So it basically adds a level of consistency, being able to draw an extra 4 cards, pick one that we need, and then shuffle the rest into the deck. And then finally, we're going to play Super Rod as our last item here. And Super Rod's good because if you have to discard a lot of water energy early, but you still want to try to hit those Max Elixirs, or, as you can notice here, we play a lot of 1-of attackers. So just kind of reusing those is really good. As far as our stadium goes, it's pretty self-explanatory. You want to play Rough Seas because most of our attackers are water Pokemon. So being able to heal 30, retreat out, and just keep doing that, rinsing and repeating, really, really strong. It's going to cause those 2-hit knockouts to become 3-hit knockouts. And, in the end, that's going to put you at a huge advantage because you're going going to be taking prizes while your opponent either is forced to have a Lysander or just attacking something that isn't really going to get knocked out. As far as our energy counts go, we're playing 11 water energy. Now I have seen 12 and I would love to fit it in. As I said, you could definitely take out the Hoopa or something else that you think is just kind of excessive. But, you know, in my testing, 11 waters is really good, especially early on. And then keep in mind, you do play Super Rod. So later in the game, if you need a Max Elixir, you know, you can definitely put some water energies back in the deck. But I think 11 is really ideal. You know, if you think about these Darkrai Garbodor decks or Eviltal Garbodor decks, they play 9 Dark and then 4 DCE or 4 Double Dragon or whatever. And I think the bare minimum, if you really want to hit these Max Elixirs, is 11 energy. As you can see in like Volcanion decks that have done well, they play 11 or 12. 11 is definitely feasible. You just have to thin out your deck a little more and definitely manage your resources. But if you want to be on the safe side, definitely play 12. I mean, I love 12 energy in here as well. There's just not a whole lot of space left. But that pretty much is the list, guys. You know, I call it Water Toolbox. There's a lot of people that call it Aqua Box or whatever. But, you know, I think it definitely breathes new life in the deck, having like Lapras GX and Tauros in it. And also Ninja Boy as well. So, I mean, it's a really fast deck, really consistent deck. It's easy to overwhelm your opponents because, you know, as they're attaching 1 energy a turn, you might be attaching 2 or 3, and you might even be attacking as early as the first turn. And that's what makes this deck really, really good. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. And, you know, if there's any changes you would make, let me know. If you have already built this deck, you know, let me know how it's been, you know, how consistent it's been, if there's any changes you would make with your deck or anything. And yeah, I mean, if there's any more deck profiles you guys want me to make, I'm going to be making them all week and really, I guess all month, because Sun and Moon is going to be launching soon. So I'll try to push out at least 1 a week. I've got a lot of extra content I want to start pushing out, guys. So for example, like how-to guides to build like budget decks or tips on competitive play, stuff like that. I'm really trying to expand the channel. So if there's any kind of coverage you want to see on the channel, just let me know. But, you know, my goal is to hopefully, you know, get players to just play the game, get into the competitive scene, and hopefully have a good time. But in the meantime, this has been Zach with Top Deck Nation. I'll catch you guys in the next video, and thanks for watching.